Curious, now that you've been through 2 weeks of the NFL season, how much more difficult has it been to adjust to that trench warfare, not having had the preseason games or a little bit more physical training camp with your teammates?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty normal. I mean, I'd say we had a pretty full training camp. I think if you ask the guys, they wouldn't say that they felt we didn't hit much or that we didn't, have a full kind of normal padded practice schedule. So, I mean, nothing's the same until you play it in a live game. You try to replicate that as much as you can in practice, but things kind of evolve throughout the year anyway. So, I'd say it has been pretty normal from that perspective. I don't think. Well, I mean, if you look at the NFL, I think a lot of people figured when we came into the year, everything was going to look sloppy and the play would look poor and stuff. And I haven't really seen anything like that in the first couple of weeks. So I think people are pretty happy with, how crisp and everything the games have looked. And that's a testament to, working hard.
Let's go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Mitchell. J.J. Watt, week 1. Joey Bosa, week 2. The Ravens have multiple guys. Even Calais Campbell has now joined them. Just what have you seen early from the Ravens and what makes their defensive line so dominant?
Yeah, they've got a lot of guys, like you said. I mean, Judon's been there for a while. He's an awesome player, to bring in Calais, to bring in Derek Wolfe. They got some of the younger guys. I mean, Bowser's been playing really well. They still have McPhee there. It seems like he's been there for forever, and he's still playing awesome football. So you got a lot of guys, and, they tend to like to blitz a lot too. So you end up, one-on-one a lot. So they can just kind of roll those guys through. Everyone's a little bit different. They're all good players, and they do a really good job with it. So knowing, who you're going against, it's not quite as, cookie cutter as some weeks where, oh, I'm going to see this guy, 85% of the snaps. I mean, you're going to get a rotation of them. But, yeah, I mean, they're able to roll through. I mean, the front seven seems like it's 12 or 13 deep with pretty much all awesome players.
Next to Darren Smith. Go ahead, Darren.
Your thoughts on obviously the big news that came out last night, officers not being charged in the murder of Breonna Taylor. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, as well as, of course, with Patrick and Tyron doing this voting registration. Is it even now more important for people who are registered to vote to know exactly who they're voting for and why they're voting for who they're voting for? And then, also, do you believe in that Black Lives Matter? I mean, I know we asked Patrick, we asked Chris, we asked Tyron, but we haven't really had a chance to ask, some of the white players that are on the Chiefs teams about this. I want to get your thoughts on those, please.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Black Lives Matter is probably the most important thing going on in our society right now. That, ties into the election, like you were talking about in terms of voting. Pat, Tyron, they've done an awesome job with that. Tyron's whole thing is trying to take kind of the stigma off it, make it cool, make people, look forward to doing it. And I think, situations like last night, you're realizing, how much power that we need to have as citizens and how do we utilize that? I mean, for the most part, it's voting. Like you said, it's putting in people that you want in those, elected leader spots to make sure that, society is running the way it should be. And I think, a lot of people are realizing that now, and I'm hopeful for, as big of a turnout as we can get on the 3rd.
Let's go next to Harold Kuntz.
Hey, Mitch, Tyreek Hill mentioned that that was the strangest experience he had been in the stadium when they played in an empty stadium. Do you kind of agree with that assessment? And now going into Baltimore again, and throughout the season, you're going to have that except for home games. How are you guys trying to pull up your energy value as you enter games?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the first few plays were a little bit weird, and then you kind of just get used to it. I mean, when you're lining up against Bosa and Ingram and they're a couple feet away from you, you're not really focused too much on anything else around you. So for me, I didn't realize it too much in, the play-to-play aspect of it. You realize it when you're sitting on the bench and, the defense does something big or someone scores a touchdown and it's pretty much silent. That's when you really, take note of it. So I think it'll just become more normal to guys who are, feeling like there's a dip in energy or anything. Obviously, the more you do something, the more normal it gets. And, lucky enough to get the victory.
Go to Sarin for the last one. Go ahead, Sarin.
Mitch, I'm curious. You talked about how the camp was pretty much normal, right? You just didn't have the preseason games, and that the games have been pretty sharp. There also haven't been any holding penalties, right? I mean, not any, but a low number. People thought there'd be a lot. It was a very low number the first week. As you sit back and look at it on film, do you think maybe there was the league is maybe trying to help some guys out, saying, hey, we know maybe guys aren't as sharp, and so maybe they've been a little more lenient? Or do you think that maybe, no preseason games actually makes for sharper football?
Well, I'd say our game reversed the trend a little bit last week. We had a few holding calls, so we did our best to rectify the situation. But I think in general, it seemed like last year, they went towards kind of flagging things that if you saw a tug or you saw anything of that nature, it's kind of an immediate flag, which had been a little bit different from the past. The past, if you were moving your feet, that was kind of the most important part of it. You can get in compromised situations with your hands, with your leverage, but for the most part, if your feet are moving, you're not really restricting the guy to the point of it being a flag. It seemed like that's kind of the stuff they've cut down on this year, at least from what I've seen. Obviously as an offensive lineman, I love to have as few holding calls as possible. I don't know that it was, a conscious thing to say, oh, the games might be sloppy if we over penalize. I wouldn't go that far, but I think was it Walt Anderson said, they were kind of focusing on the clear and concise and the obvious stuff. And so, for the most part, the way my understanding of, holding has always been, obviously, if he's away from your body and you're kind of tugging him and preventing him from going in a direction, that's going to be flagged every time. If he's within your frame and you're moving your feet with him, for the most part, that's not a true restriction of movement. So, that's seeming to be not called quite as much and is more in line with kind of my general understanding of, what the infraction should be.
Mitchell, we appreciate the time today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.